race to the White House is heating up. Donald Trump and Joe Biden are out on the campaign trail trying to drum up support before the big showdown in November. But not all candidates are created equal. Whilst Donald Trump is thriving, Joe Biden is declining. Sky News All-Stars Rita Panahi, James Morrow and James Macpherson take a look at the highs and lows of this very intense presidential battle. Surprise, surprise, Joe Biden has had another shocker of a week. On 2 occasions this week, the President of the United States exposed himself as nothing more than a puppet of the Democrat overlords, reveals Sky News All-Star Liz Storer.
Well, we all know that US President Joe Biden shouldn't speak, but get this, he knows he shouldn't speak as well. Have a listen.
I better not start the questions, I'll get in trouble.
What's your message for Super Tuesday voters? Everyone, please move this way. Super Tuesday, say, do you have a message for voters? Thanks, come on.
Can you believe that the leader of the free world just tells journalists, I'm not going to answer any of your questions because if I do, I'll get in trouble.
But once he's not wrong. He's not wrong. He's just like, this will not go well. Is it any wonder that despite clean sweeps on Super Tuesday, this man did not make a speech? He didn't talk to the party faithful. He literally just put out a statement. It is so obvious his mental decline has reached an all-time high. The fact that they are still running him is hard to believe, and someone should be filing for elder abuse.
And again, he asked permission from his staff to answer questions.
Anyway, am I allowed to take any questions? Anybody here to stay?
Stop it. The cars. Thank you, press.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump spent the weekend at the UFC, entering the arena to cheers an anti-Biden chants.
With Conor McGregor also making his way to the octagon, the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, flanked by UFC CEO Dana White. Lost in the pageantry is just how big a mixed martial arts fan Donald Trump is. He sits octagon side with the cans on, absolutely loves our live events, and a real privilege to have President Trump in the building at UFC 299.
And the fallout from Laken Riley's death continues, with Joe Biden admitting the young woman was allegedly killed by an illegal during his State of the Union address, only to later apologise to the murderer, says Sky News All-Star Rita Panahi.
Now, the left are losing it after Joe Biden used the word illegal to refer to the alleged killer of college student Laken Riley. Now, to be clear, the accused is an illegal immigrant in America illegally, but that comment by Biden in his State of the Union address last week has led to an almighty meltdown from the left, including current Democrat politicians. So much so that the president was forced to apologise. Let's have a look at his comments at the State of the Union and the apology.
Laken Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right.
You used the word illegal when talking about the man who allegedly killed Laken Riley.
An undocumented person. And I shouldn't have used illegal. It's undocumented.
Donald Trump launched on Joe Biden after this insensitive comment, even meeting with Laken Riley's parents to show support for the grieving family.
When I say he was an illegal alien, he was an illegal immigrant, he was an illegal migrant, and he shouldn't have been in our country, and he never would have been under the Trump policy. And Biden should be apologizing for apologizing to this killer.
Joe Biden's State of the Union address also attracted criticism from Republicans and commentators, says Sky News All-Star James Morrow.
Now, on to Joe Biden's very big, very ranty State of the Union, which sounded more like one of Howard Beale's monologues from the classic 1976 film Network than a dignified State of the Union delivered by a president in full control of his faculties. Speaking of which, it seems like once again, despite the media somehow deciding as if in unison that the Biden speech was fiery. Yes, that's the word that dozens and dozens of media outlets all use to describe it, as if it was, I don't know, somehow briefed to them by the White House, spin doctors maybe. I don't know, I'm just being a cynic here. Well, it looks like there's going to be a fair bit of cleanup on aisle Joe once again.
Federalist elections correspondent Brianna Lyman agreed, saying Joe Biden shot himself in the foot with his State of the Union address.
So, Brianna, I mean, it seemed to me watching that what was not said was just as important as what was said. I mean, as I think Annalise said, this is very much a campaign speech, but also in the way he framed a lot of issues, I think he's got a lot of attack lines that he's opened up for the Trump campaign around the economy, around the border, and so much else. Brianna, is that your impression as well?
Yeah, President Biden unfortunately shot himself in the foot with this speech. You know, the Constitution says that from time to time, the president will give an address on the State of the Union. And all President Biden had to do was get up on that stage and say to the American public, look, I know the State of the Union for you Americans. I know you can't put food on the table. I know gas prices are rising again. I know you cannot afford to pay your rent. I hear you, I understand you, and I'm going to work to address those problems. And instead, he gave us the perception that he's just completely divorced from reality because he got up there and lectured Americans about how great this economy is. And so many Americans who are dissatisfied with Biden, especially independent voters, they cite the economy as one of their biggest concerns. And tonight, Biden proved that he will not be able to address the issues that are plaguing the economy in the next few months, in the next 4 years, because he can't even acknowledge that they exist.
This comes as Donald Trump was celebrating a sweeping victory on Super Tuesday.
Our cities are choking to death, our states are dying, and frankly, our country is dying, and we're going to make America great again, greater than ever before.
Trump celebrated with some wholesome family time where his granddaughter affectionately jumped into his arms. This was in stark contrast to Joe Biden, who is being openly mocked and ridiculed, according to Sky News All-Star James Macpherson.
Well, you know you're in trouble when they're not just criticising you. Now they're openly mocking and ridiculing you. When it gets to that point, surely it's all over Red Rover.
And all of this is translating to worrying polls for Joe Biden.
Now, before I go, let's have a quick bit of fun with the mass unhinging happening in the US thanks to consecutive polls showing Donald Trump beating Joe Biden and, according to some polls, beating him quite comfortably, beating him in the crucial swing states and even beating him by 6 points among Hispanic voters. Who could have thought that? that has seen the Democrats' propaganda arm go into full-blown weapon-grade gaslighting.
The hysterical left are also having a tough time coming to terms with Donald Trump's campaign promises, reveals Sky News host James Morrow.
Joe Biden's bizarre comments about Israel in a moment, but first, tell you what, if Donald Trump had a superpower, it would have to be his ability to drive his opponents into absolute full-on meltdown, making them so angry that they reveal they really think. Have a look at this woke influencer having an absolute meltdown about, oh no, Donald Trump's campaign promises. And as you do, ask yourself, what's the problem with these?
Here are the first 15 promises he has made if he is reelected. You may have heard of Project 2025, but this is from Agenda 47. And you can read all of these on his website. First, he promises that he will carry out the largest domestic deportation operation in history.
It's already got my votes. What are you doing?
Silence for anyone convicted
Don't promise me a good time.
He will close the Department of Education and return all education standards to the states to decide. He will put prayer back into school, and he will criminalize any race-based advantage programs. He will end the Affordable Care Act. He will ban gender-affirming care for adults and children, and he will ban any federal dollars from going towards gender-affirming care, which means anyone with government-provided health care will no longer be able to access gender-affirming care except for Viagra and Cialis. Those will still be available. He will propose a constitutional amendment that gives a term limit to Congress. He will deploy the Department of Justice to investigate the Biden crime family and any of his adversaries or political rivals. He will immediately pardon all of the January 6thers, and he will create a task force to investigate anyone who arrested, charged, or imprisoned a January 6er. He will increase the penalties for underage criminal offenders, strengthen immunity for police officers, and deploy the National Guard to patrol woke cities.
Hey. What a legend. Stop. We can only get so excited here.